so we now have the power rule, the product rule, the quotient rules, and a bunch of other rules, and the derivatives of all 6 functions at our disposal. So number 5, we need to find the derivatives of each function before we begin. State which rule or rules that we're going to have to use. The product rule seems to be the rule that people forget to use. Please try not to be one of these people. Yeah. Once you guys start getting more and more in there, people forget the simple stuff. So please don't forget that. Alright, so the first thing I see on A is I've got f of x is equal to x squared times sine of x. Well, since I said times, then this is going to be product rule. So my u is going to be x squared. My v is going to be sine of x. So first I'm going to use product rule. Alright, that means that du or u primed is going to be 2x. And then v primed or dv is going to be cosine of x. Nice. So then I've got u dv, which is just going to be x squared times cosine of x, plus v, which is sine of x, times du, which is 2x in this case. And then I'm going to try to simplify this as much as possible, but really there is no like terms. So I'm just going to write f primed of x and maybe move on with my life. Yeah, because there's nothing I can do to plug that in. Alright, the next one I've got cosine of x divided by x. So on this one, I'm going to be using the quotient rule. Alright, and that's just my personal preference, but it's also to get us used to other rules. A lot of us are getting pretty good at product rule, I'm not gonna lie, I am impressed. Alright, so what I've got, oops, didn't mean to call that. Alright, so then I've got low, which is x, d high, which is going to be negative sine of x, low d high minus high, which is cosine of x, times d low, which is 1, all over low, which is just going to be x squared. So again, I'm going to clean this up as much as I can, which is just going to be negative x sine of x, I don't know why my dots aren't wanting to stay, minus cosine of x all over x squared. Alright, and that's about as simplified as that can get for f primed of x on that one. Alright, the next one I've got g of t, so I'm going to rewrite g of t first because I see that I've got square roots involved and I really don't like square roots. If you do, more power to you. Full pun intended here in a second. Sorry, still a pun person. Alright, so then I'm going to take g primed of t. I'm going to be using my power rule, hence why I said more power to you. So I'm going to say, okay, I've got 1/2 t, subtract 1 from my exponent, I've got negative 1/2. Plus 4 is my constant times the derivative of secant, which is just going to be secant tangent. Alright. And that's pretty gross. I don't see any like terms that are going to add. So, yeah. I'm just going to clean this up a little bit. Alright, so if I started with the square root, I'm probably going to end with the square root. So all that I've got is, gosh dang it, cat. Which is g primed of t is equal to 1/2 square root of t in my denominator plus 4 times the quantity of secant of t times tangent of t. And that's about as pretty as that can get. Sorry, guys. But less work for you. Alright, 3 more and then we're done with this section. Alright. Next one I see is 5 secant theta plus tangent of theta. So it looks like I've just got c times u plus v. So that's just when I have still c times du over d of theta plus dv with respect to theta. Alright, so then I'm just going to have 5 h primed of theta times the derivative of secant, which is just secant tangent. So I'm going to have secant of theta times tangent of theta plus tangent. Derivative is just secant squared. And in this case, my variable is theta, so that's as cleaned up as I can get that. Really, I could factor out a secant, but since I don't have a denominator with a secant, I really don't see the point of factoring that out if it's not going to really help me. Okay, next one. I've got h of s, last two, and then we're done. So I've got, probably, looking at this, I'm going to change that 1 over s first into being 1 to the s, 1 times s to the negative 1 minus 10 cosecant of s. Alright, so then I'm just going to have, okay, I've got h primed of s using power rule is just going to be negative 1 s to the negative 2 minus 10, because that's still my constant, it's going to stay chilling. And then the derivative of cosecant, scrolling back up or flipping back to, maybe you guys don't know this quite yet, and I don't blame you, it takes a little bit. But the derivative of cosecant is just going to be cosecant cotangent with that negative sitting out in front of it. Scrolling back down for me, flipping back for you guys. Oops. Scrolled a little bit too far. So then I've got negative cosecant of s times cotangent of s, and I wish that I'd pick another variable, but that's alright. So really all I've got is h primed of s is equal to negative 1 over s squared, oh Jiminy Christmas, plus 10 cosecant of s times cotangent of s, and that's really about as good as that one gets, unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on how you look at it. Alright, and then last but not least, before the calculator stuff, we've got x times cotangent of x. Again, I said times, which means that I'm going to be using the product rule. So u is x, v is cotangent of x, du or u primed is just going to be 1, v primed or dv is just going to be again, scrolling back up, I don't know why it paused for so long, but scrolling back up, the derivative of cotangent is just going to be negative cosecant squared. Again, try to memorize these 6 as quickly as you can. They do like to ask about them all the time on the AP test. And these are ones that you're just going to have to know even without your calculator. There is a large chunk that is no calculator section, which is why I keep emphasizing, like, hey, I don't mind if you check with your calculator, but please make sure you know how to solve these things by hand too. They won't give you ones that are too hard because of a time constraint, but they will expect you guys to know at least these 6 off the top of your head. Alright. So, sleep caught it. That is just negative cosecant squared of x. Alright, so then I've got u times v primed, which is just going to be negative x times cosecant squared of x. just stealing the negative from here. Shouldn't have underlined it because then it looked like an equal sign, but that's alright. Plus v du, which is just going to be cotangent of x times 1, which is just cotangent. So multiplying u times dv and v times du. And that's all I did. Combine those like terms if you have any, and there's not any. That's about as pretty as that can be. So with that, we're done, and I will see you guys with a calculator video, and that's about it. Have a great rest of your day.